Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Kyle and welcome back to another Dead by Daylight video. In today's video, we're going to be ranking every realm from worst to best. So this is not ranking the maps, this is ranking the realms. So for example, Coldwind Farm is the realm, and then the maps inside of the realm are Fractured Cowshed, Rancid Abattoir, Rotten Fields, etc. So we're just going to be basing this list on the realms as a whole. And I wanted to do this based on the design and the atmosphere and how well-rounded the maps are as a whole. So this is not a survivor-sided list, and this is not a killer-sided list. Of course, we all have different opinions, so let me know down in the comments what your favorite realm is. If you guys enjoy this video and want me to rank every map from worst to best, feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you're new. Anyway, let's get right into the list. Coming into the last place spot is RPD. A lot of people like this map, but it is objectively the worst designed map in Dead by Daylight history. The map is absolutely beautiful. The map is probably one of the best looking maps in the game. Aesthetically, it's awesome. There's so many little details, but the gameplay design of this map is so horrendous. This map literally checks off all the boxes for what a poorly designed Dead by Daylight map is. 1, it's huge. It's 3 stories and it's like 3 miles long. 2, it has the haddonfield effect where it's really hard to get to your objective even though you know where your objective is. So for example, if you're playing killer and you hear a gen being worked on from behind a wall, you have to go all the way around a couple walls, go up a couple flights of stairs, make a sandwich, read a book, and then you'll get there. The loop and pallet designs are terrible. 90% of the pallets are either extremely unsafe or they're just god pallets, which is super boring on both sides because the survivors just go to the next pallet, drop it, and then go to the next pallet, drop it, and the killers just have to go to the next pallet, break it, go to the next pallet, break it. There's no interactivity at all. Also, this is a little bit of a survivor-sided note, but the totems are so hard to find. And this is a killer-related thing. Survivors are so hard to find. If you're playing against a team of immersed urban evasion gamers, you're literally never gonna find them. It's the most boring thing ever. Next up on the list is Silent Hill. This realm only has Midwich in it, and I like Midwich. I enjoy playing on Midwich for the most part, but the design of it is so bad. Just like RPD, it's aesthetically amazing. Like, it's one of the most beautiful maps in this game, but it is such a poorly designed map. If you're playing Survivor, all you do is hold W, and if you're playing Killer, all you do is hold W. It's like the worst possible thing that they could have done. The pallets are also pretty boring as well. They're usually just very regular, basic, unsafe, or safe pallet loops with the occasional god pallets on the corners. What makes this map a little better than RPD though is that there are some windows that can make it a little fun to loop, whereas RPD, all of the windows are just extremely stupid. Coming into the 14th spot, we have Gideon Meat Plant, also known as The Game. This map is extremely survivor-sided, and it is the most frustrating thing ever. The design of this map is just super boring because there's literally like 40 pallets on the entire map. Let's say you're playing Bubba as a killer. You will literally never catch survivors because if you pull up your chainsaw, they're just gonna throw down the pallet, and then they'll go to the next pallet, and then they'll continue going to the next pallet over and over again until you DC. It just promotes that extremely boring play style where you just hold W and throw the next pallet and then continue chaining that over and over again. But again, all the small little details on this map are so cool. It's like they took all of their resources from making good game design decisions and put it into making good details and aesthetic decisions. All right, the 13th spot is going to Red Forest. So this includes both Mother's Dwelling and the Temple of Purgation. Mother's Dwelling is a horrible map. It's literally the size of Mount Everest. The only good thing I would say is that the loops are pretty fun, actually. The main building loop is really fun on both sides, in my opinion, and the small little hut thing with the 2 stories is actually pretty fun as well. And then it has like regular TLs and regular jungle gyms and stuff. But then there's so many dead zones because this map is so big, and big maps suck for both Survivor and Killer. Big maps make it easier for survivors, but it's also super boring as survivors because it takes 30 minutes to find the next gen. And then the other map, Temple of Purgation, is actually way better. It's much smaller, and the loops are all connected with relatively safe pallets. So it actually feels like a pretty balanced map. I really don't mind Temple of Purgation as much. All right, the next spot is going to Grave of Glenvale, which only has Dead Dog Saloon in it. Dead Dog Saloon is honestly a really fun map on both sides, but it's just designed horribly. All of the loops are basically overpowered until the killer breaks the walls. So it's just not very fun from a killer's perspective, but at the same time, it's not very fun from a survivor's perspective because the map is so small that the killer can pressure everything all at once. And if you have a killer with high mobility, like Spirit or Nurse or Billy even, it's going to be very difficult to actually win. There's also the main building loop, which is extremely frustrating from a killer's perspective because if a survivor knows how to fast vault that window, you will literally have to block out that window until you catch up to them. The next realm on this list, which is unfortunately going to be leaving us soon, is Hawkins National Laboratory. This map is just fun. This is just a fun map. However, it's not designed very well. I actually have to give credit where credit's due. A lot of the rooms have really cool designs, such as the long rooms with the stairs up and then the window vaults on the top, it causes for some really interesting 50-50 interactivity with the survivor and the killer, which I think is actually pretty fun. However, the rest of the map is just filled with a bunch of unsafe pallet loops, and it's kind of boring. Plus, this map is actually pretty massive, so it's kind of hard to find your objectives. It's honestly really sad to see this map going away. It's not a good map, but it's a fun map. The 10th spot is going to Larry's Memorial Institute. Just like Hawkins, this is a poorly designed map, but it's a fun map. There's so much RNG involved with Larry's, you never know which windows or doors are gonna be open, so it's hilarious the amount of OP loops that this can create, or the amount of dead zones that this can create. I just personally like how random it is, and it's actually pretty fun to play against killers on this map because you're terrified of what they're gonna do because you literally can't see anything. However, from a killer's perspective, it is super boring because survivors have a lot of windows, and survivors that are immersed are also extremely hard to find. But aesthetically, it's also amazing, and they've done a ton of graphical updates to this map specifically, which has made it look even better. The next spot is going to the infamously hated Haddonfield. Haddonfield is a really bad map. I can appreciate what they were trying to do, but the design decisions just did not work well. I think looping double-story houses is actually pretty interesting. It allows for some really cool gameplay mechanics from different heights, but the fact that it's all windows and there's not like holes in the walls that killers can go through, it's only just doors and windows, makes it really difficult for killers. This map is obviously the most survivor-sided map in the entire game. However, if you are playing a killer with bamboozle or with something that can ignore windows completely, then it's actually not too terrible. But the long walls, which are extremely prevalent in this map, whether that be the giant hedges that can spawn sometimes 4 miles long, or the giant white picket fences that can also spawn 4 miles long, those make this map so horrible. You have to spend 34 minutes before you actually catch up to a survivor that's looping that. Next up on the list is Ormond. I actually really liked the old Ormond much better than the new one, just because I found the loops to be much more mechanically intense and much more fun, especially the one in the main building. Maybe not for killer, I guess. But now it's just kind of meh. It's kind of an average map. There's a lot of pallets, but most of the pallets are pretty bad, so it's kind of even for both sides. The map is really large, which kind of sucks. The one thing that brings this map down a lot is its size. It's huge. It's absolutely massive, but it does have a bunch of regular loops and some of those unique, really weird loops, which makes this map actually pretty fun. It's also had a ton of really funny glitches where you could get onto the rocks, which made for some hilarious moments. The 7th spot is going to Springwood. Springwood consists of all 5 of the preschools, which are all literally just the same map, but in different orientations. This map is really survivor-sided, which is the one thing that sucks. However, killers can manage if they know what they're doing. I think the design of the houses in this versus Haddonfield is much better because it actually kind of gives the killers a chance to 50-50 mind game you. So for example, on Springwood, there's the house that goes up to the 2nd story where there's a window at the top of the stairs. And for that, a killer can read you correctly and cut you off as you're falling. Or you can read them correctly and fake it so that they cut you off and then lose distance. So it's actually kind of interactive with each player, which is kind of nice. The map's also not terribly big. However, it still is pretty enormous, which kind of sucks. The next spot is going to Backwater Swamp. This includes both the Pale Rose and the Grim Pantry. I used to actually hate these maps on both sides, and I'm pretty sure it's this weird thing that everybody has where when they start playing the game and they're kind of new to it, they hate the map, but as you continue to get more and more experience, you realize that it's actually not that terrible of a map. The size is a little daunting, and the stupid pog logs are freaking insane for survivors. But besides that, the loops are actually really interesting. Every single loop on these maps are completely different than the regular ones. They're either totally unique or they're like modified versions of the regular ones that you see. So for example, on the Pale Rose, there is a loop that can spawn near the dock that's basically both the L-Wall Jungle Gym and the Longwall Jungle Gym combined into one. It has one pallet and 2 windows in the same locations as both of those jungle gyms, but combined, except the entire thing is smaller. So you have 2 windows there to work with now. However, you have less space in between those windows so that the killer can catch up to you easier. I just think that the loops on this map are extremely unique, and it makes for some really fun gameplay mechanics. However, if there's a survivor who knows how to use the poglog and you're playing killer, it's probably the worst map in the entire game. The 5th place spot is going to Yamoka Estate. I think these maps are actually extremely balanced. I would say they err more on the survivor side, but I still think killer has like a 50-50 chance of winning, depending on the players. There's a lot of normal loops, but there's also a lot of those really unique weird loops that honestly I don't really like. However, this just feels like the only realm of the like relatively new realms that feels like a classic map, right? Like take all of the recent maps, Silent Hill, Raccoon City Police Department, Grave of Glenvale. These are all like extremely different. Yamoka just takes you back to the good old days, you know? That's what I really like about this map. It just feels like one of those basic maps. The 4th place spot is going to Autohaven. I think Autohaven is one of the most survivor-sided maps in the game, but it's just an overall fun realm in my opinion. It has the normal loops, it has some unsafe pallets, it has some safe pallets, it has a good mix of dead zones and pallet zones, so as a survivor, you really have to be worried about where you drop pallets, and it also has some fun lines of sight for huntresses or for nurses or for any of those killers. It's just an overall really well-rounded realm, and each map inside of it has a really unique feel to it. Like take Blood Lodge and then compare that to Wretched Shop. They feel completely different even though they're in the same realm. Their size is also pretty perfect as well. They're like medium-sized, and I think their size fits this game perfectly. The third place spot is going to Coldwind Farm. So Coldwind actually used to be terribly designed because the loops could literally be right next to each other and survivors could chain them so easily. Now they're way more balanced, and I think overall these maps are just very well-rounded. I don't actually like the graphical updates that they did to them to make them daytime. I liked them when they came out for the first time in the PTB, but I've since started to actually despise them because you literally can't see auras, you can't see anything, it's so bright, and I kind of miss the sunset versions of these maps. However, design-wise, they're still extremely fun. I think Thompson House is actually one of the worst maps now, considering that they reworked the Thompson House completely, but there's still like Torment Creek, which is the one with like the giant downed blimp thing, and then Rotten Fields, which is always fun for hillbilly players and huntress players. So overall, there's a good mix of killer-sided maps and survivor-sided maps, and it's also medium-sized, which is great, so it just checks off a lot of the good boxes. And the second place spot in this list is going to Crotus Pren Asylum. Disturbed Ward, which is the one with like the dome thing, and it's like the two-story insane asylum. I think this map is great on both sides. The indoor loops are really fun to mess around with, and it actually has some good choke points for both the survivor and the killer. But I think the more fun version is Father Campbell's Chapel, which is the one with the three-eyed horse and the carnival in the background, and then the main building, which is the double-story church. I think this map is really well designed. The main building is a little survivor-sided. However, the rest of the map is just regular basic loops and some unsafe/safe pallets, which to me makes this map feel very balanced overall. Plus, the fact that they have a three-eyed horse just makes this map so much better. I do really miss the old versions of these maps though, because now the color and the detail just feels very off with the new graphical update, and the old ones just felt very gray and very dreary, which really fit the vibe of this realm. And finally, the best realm of maps, in my opinion, is going to the Macmillan maps. This is a really hard placement because it involves a very wide variety of maps. So there's Shelter Woods, which has 3 pallets and 3 windows probably on the entire map. But then there's Suffocation Pit, which has like 70 pallets and 70 windows on the entire map. So it actually comes with a couple killer-sided maps and a couple survivor-sided maps, which makes it very well-rounded overall. And this realm has the best map in all of DBD, which is Coal Tower. Coal Tower is by far, objectively, the best designed map in the game. It's super balanced on both sides. It has a main building at the top, shack at the bottom, and then 3 loops on both sides connecting them, and then a long straight area in the middle. So this map works really well with pretty much every single killer, except for maybe stealth killers, and then pretty much every play style of survivors. Coal Tower is such a good map, and it honestly brings Macmillan up so much. Then there's like Groaning Storehouse and Ironworks of Misery, which are the ones with the huge giant buildings. Groaning Storehouse is the one with the warehouse, and Ironworks of Misery is the one with the giant upstairs area. Both of these maps just feel very balanced overall. The layout of Groaning Storehouse is kind of annoying because it has those 2 little pocket areas that are completely useless to the killer, but it allows survivors to take advantage of that if they finish the gens or if they split up the gens in those areas, but it also allows the killers to take advantage of them because they can pretty much camp a body that's all the way back in one of those corners just by patrolling the entrances to those areas. Macmillan also has the blue nighttime tint, which I think is absolute perfection for this game and the vibe of this game, and that's why I'm considering it to be the best realm in Dead by Daylight. If you guys agree or disagree with my list, go in the comments and let me know, and if you enjoyed it and want to see more like this, feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you're new. Also, come join my Discord, link in the description. Anyway guys, that's about all I have for you today, so I will see you all in the next one. Peace!